So you want to start a garden, but you don't really know where to start. I have gotten so many emails and comments from those of you all who really want to get into gardening, but you really don't know what you need to do, what you need, how to do it. Throughout the years, I have accumulated quite a few tools and gadgets that are nice to have, but they aren't necessity to be successful at gardening. And so today I really took a step back to kind of strip all of that away, and I really thought about, like, if I was starting a garden from scratch today, what are all the things I would need to be successful? And so in today's video, I'm going to share with you all of those things. I'm also going to share with you recommendations on some beginner-friendly crops to get started with, and at the end we will start a container garden together, and by the end of this video you will be able to go out and start your own garden and feel confident doing it. Let's go. Number one on the list are gloves. Now, I have never, ever been one of those people that wants to be one with the earth, with hands in dirt, all in the soil, because there are things that bite and says soil. These are my favorite ones, y'all. They are water resistant, they are durable, they are really easy to work with. I have gotten these on Amazon. I got these particularly from Costco. I went to Costco today and they had them in a 2-pack. So highly recommend. I will link them below if you don't have a Costco membership. By the way, everything I mentioned I'll link below just so you have it for reference. But these are my absolute favorites. Also, if you're going to be working with things that are thorny, so maybe you're growing roses or maybe some berries that have thorns, highly recommend investing in some thorn resistant gloves. I do recommend getting both, like something like the ones I showed previously and the thorn resistant ones, because I found the thorn resistant ones are usually thicker and harder to like move around and handle things with. Get you some gloves. The next is a toolkit, and the type of tools you're going to need is going to vary a bit based on if you're just growing in containers versus if you're growing in a raised bed or in ground. If you're growing in containers, I think a basic toolkit that has a trowel, one of those little forky things, I don't know what it's called, garden fork maybe, are usually the two most common tools that I will use. You can get them for really inexpensively online. I find that a lot of those kits though have things that I'm like, what is this? Or things I don't ever use. I like this one. It comes with a trowel, the little forky thing, and a scoop. I love a good scoop if you're scooping things like soil, fertilizer, things like that. You can also, if you have a kit, you get a kit, or maybe you already have a kit and you don't have a scoop, you can get these like plastic ones from the dollar store. They work really well for scooping things in. I wouldn't use it for like you would like a trowel, but for just scooping, they work really well. Now, if you are growing in a raised bed or in ground, highly recommend investing in a shovel, a pitchfork, and a garden rake. Now, the shovel is probably more relevant to growing in ground. A pitchfork is really good for like lugging things, specifically like lighter weight, looser materials like mulch or things like compost if you have a compost pile. And then I like to use a rake because it's really helpful for like mixing the soil in, smoothing the soil down over the surface. It has a multitude of uses, and so those are probably the three most common tools I use. The next are garden shears and garden pruners. Depending on what you are growing, you can get away with having one or the other. Ideally, you'd have both. But gardening shears and pruners are really good for a few things. In season, you'll find that you'll have to prune and snip different areas of your plants away. And so it's really helpful to have high quality gardening shears or gardening pruners to do this. That way you aren't putting much stress on the plant. They're also really good for harvesting things. Now, some plants can be really finicky when you're trying to harvest from, and so actually pulling them can damage the plant. And so a lot of times it's best to actually just cut them. The next is the thing you're actually going to be planting in. There are so many options, and a lot of the options you likely have around the house, lying around, and you don't even have to buy anything. When I first started out with gardening, my very first container was one of those plastic storage totes. I was just starting out, so it was a disaster, but it was no fault of the container, but it worked really, really well. Something else I did when I was starting out is I went to local nurseries and asked them, like sometimes they have those giant containers that they're just throwing out. And so I went to my local nursery and was able to get quite a few of those for free. Now, granted, it was nurseries that I was actually giving business to. And so I wasn't just going to some random nursery and asking them for, you know, their leftover container. So be respectful. Now, a lot of you all have asked me where I get my like giant containers. My absolute favorite place to get them is Costco. go. Now they only have them in spring through early summer, so now they are in stock as we speak, and they are huge. They are made of a very thick and durable plastic. So if you have a Costco membership, highly recommend. If not, Walmart is also a wonderful source for the huge containers. However, it really varies depending on the Walmart. I find not all Walmarts will have them. So if you can get your hands on them, highly recommend. Also really like the plastic barrel, and those are widely available. If you are going to be using a type of plastic that you have, you just want to make sure it's a plastic that's rated for food. Usually at the bottom of the plastic, it'll have a number, and these are the numbers that are rated for food. Next are grow bags. My first setup outside of my plastic tubs, I grew in grow bags. Now I have a love-hate relationship with grow bags, but when I was first starting out, I grew a lot in grow bags, and they're really economical because you can get a 12 pack for less than $20 of the 10-gallon ones. The only thing with grow bags is they do break down over time. The big benefit with grow bags is that fabric actually air prunes the roots of your plant, and so what that does is, in a typical container, once it starts, the plant starts to outgrow it, it will become root bound. So that means, if you've ever seen it, it continues to swirl around and around and around, and essentially the plant is choking itself out. And so with grow bags, it the air, when the root fills the air, it prunes away, cuts that away, and the roots start to grow inward and create a more robust root system. And then another option is a GreenStalk. Now I love my GreenStalk. My very first one, my mom actually gave me, this is the one she gave me for Christmas one year. And what I really like about the GreenStalk is that it utilizes vertical space that would otherwise go wasted. And if you are going to be buying a GreenStalk, I have a promo code you can redeem either using the link below or using COTY at checkout. I am all for working smarter, not harder. I am all for a one and done. So I love my metal raised beds. I have had mine for years and years and years. I have tried all the brands. They all work great, quite frankly. I probably have 4 different brands of raised beds, and I can't really tell the difference between them. One of my favorites is Vego because they have a lot more accessories to go with their raised beds, and they do not heat up your soil. I know that is a common misconception. I'm here in Texas. I have never had a problem with the raised beds heating up the soil. It's just the Texas heat heating up the soil. It's got nothing to do with the raised bed. It's just hot here. I do want to call out for the metal raised beds. They are the galvanized metal raised bed. I think I have a code for Vego. If I do, I will link it below. You can also build a raised bed using cinder blocks. And in fact, my very first few raised beds were made from cinder blocks. My mom and I made countless trips to Home Depot and Lowe's, buying out the cinder blocks. And those raised beds are still standing as we speak. They're incredibly durable, they're widely accessible, and really affordable. So highly recommend. The next thing that I am always carping about and mentioning in nearly every planting video is an organics, slow release, well-balanced fertilizer. This is my favorite brand of fertilizers right now. There are a multitude of fertilizers you can use, but this is my absolute favorite. It is an amazing quality at an amazing value, so highly recommend. I also use their liquid fertilizer. I struggled if I should put a liquid fertilizer on the list because it's not a necessity to get started, but it is highly recommended to get a liquid fertilizer. The difference between slow release fertilizer and a liquid fertilizer is a slow release fertilizer breaks down slowly over time as the soil, the microbes in the soil breaks it down. However, with a liquid fertilizer, those nutrients are readily available instantly. And so I use a combination of both. So for slow release organic fertilizer, I would typically, depending on the plant, fertilize every 4 to 6 weeks. Whereas when I'm in the thick of the growing season, for my liquid fertilizer, I will use that every 2 weeks. Something like a tomato that's an incredibly heavy feeder, I definitely recommend using both. I should also mention, some of you all may be new to buying fertilizer. When you buy fertilizer, there are 3 numbers represented on the packaging, and those numbers are NPK. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Nitrogen supports leafy green growth. It also supports photosynthesis, which is the process of a plant uptaking sunlight and converting it into energy. So things like celery, kale, broccoli are really heavy nitrogen feeders. The P stands for phosphorus, and phosphorus supports root development, flowering, bulbing, and fruiting. K stands for potassium, and potassium really helps to build up the plant's resiliency. It also helps it uptake the optimal amount of water and nutrients. The next non-negotiable is compost. I can't think of anything I don't amend with compost. It is black gold. It's like magic. It is full of microbes and organisms and nutrients and just all the things. I personally, my two favorites are chicken manure. I usually use composted chicken manure for things that are heavier nitrogen feeders, because poultry manure has a higher nitrogen content compared to other types of compost. And then the other compost I use quite regularly is mushroom compost. Any type of compost will do. It is the best way to feed your soil. The next is probably the most important thing, and that is your soil, because it is the soil that feeds your plants. And so it is imperative to invest in a quality planting media, preferably organic, but get whatever you have access to or whatever your budget allows. For the raised beds, if you are starting a lot, it's actually more economical to buy in bulk. So when I started out my raised beds, I actually ordered from a local landscaping company, and they delivered the raised bed mix. They literally just came and dumped it on my driveway. And I had to lug it in my raised beds, but that is hands down going to be the most economical way if you are starting a lot of raised beds. I forgot another non-negotiable, and that is mulch. And mulch does so many things. It helps suppresses weeds, it helps retain moisture. It also acts as a protection against the harmful UV rays from the sun. It also provides a level of insulation against fluctuations in temperature, whether that be extreme hot or cold. And as it breaks down, it provides nutrients to the soil. And there are so many options when it comes to mulch. You can use the traditional hardwood mulch, you can use straw, you can use grass clippings. If you are using grass clippings, you just want to make sure they haven't been treated with herbicides. And make sure whatever mulch you're using, it is natural. So no rubber mulch. The next items are more bonuses. They may or may not be necessities based on what you're growing and your climate. The first thing on the list is a trellis. So as you grow, depending on what you're growing, things like peas, green beans, cucumbers, they are going to need a trellis for support. Favorite places that have been to get trellises has actually been Walmart and Costco. During this time of year, Walmart has a ton of these like really tall, like black trellises. Costco has them. Also, Hobby Lobby randomly has them. I have found them at all these places. They all have them out right now. And tagging on to that as it relates to just plant support, if you're growing tomatoes, you're going to want to stake your tomatoes. And I found one of my favorite ways to stake a tomato, if I'm growing it in a container, is to get a Tpost, one of those middle T-posts. You just have to remember as it grows to tie it up. The Tpost, it is incredibly sturdy and it will last season after season after season. If you are going to get a tomato cage, you want to make sure you get one of the big heavy duty ones. Those just random like rinky dinky ones that are really available at like Lowe's and Home Depot are pretty useless for tomatoes. Next is for those of my peeps that are here in Texas or anywhere that's hot. I highly recommend getting a shade cloth. You can also get tulle to create some type of shade for your plants when it becomes incredibly, unbearably hot. I just went to a local masonry store and I got those like bendy ladder mesh things, and I will drape those over the ladder mesh. I'll put the ladder mesh around my, like in my container, put the shade cloth on top, and that works incredibly well. Next seems really basic, but like it is so handy. It's like a bucket or like tub of some sort. It is so convenient for like mixing things in or harvesting in or for collecting garden trash. And I just get mine from Dollar Tree. They have like, you can use the dish tubs. They have those like bendy containers. The next one also is more so if you are growing in a raised bed or in ground, is a wagon. Like I am always hauling dirt, like soil bags, fertilizer bags, and each of those bags are like 40 pounds. And so I have both a trolley and a wagon. I love the wagon because it's very like multi-use. I can use it to like lug things in that are really heavy. I can like mix things in it. I can harvest things in it. It's borderline necessity and convenience. I think that was it. So let's go plant some stuff. One of the biggest challenges that a lot of beginner gardeners face is figuring out what to plant with one another. And there are several ways to approach this, but I put together a really simple framework to help guide you and hopefully give you some inspiration along the way. First one, you want to choose a hero plant. Once you have your hero plant, you want to think about what are the needs of that plant for it to be successful, whether that be the level of nutrition, whether it's a heavy feeder. The third thing is figuring out what are common challenges that the plant faces. And then next, really think about what are some plants that can either complement or support a plant or can help mitigate the challenges that the plant may face. And then lastly, what are the plants that your hero plant can potentially support? And here's an example of a tomato plant as a hero plant, as well as some examples of a few supporting plants that would complement it nicely. And here's some beginner-friendly crops along with a few planting combo ideas. And so there you have it. Hopefully you have the information and the confidence you need to go out and start a garden, whether that's today or this weekend. It doesn't have to be complicated, y'all. I know it's really easy to compare yourself and your garden to other people's garden on YouTube, mine included. But remember, it was a process. I did not get here overnight. I probably made every failure you could possibly make along the way, but you learn and you get a little bit better each time. So get out of your own head, get out there in the garden, start small, whether it's just a pot and an herb. Start somewhere. Also, I almost forgot, I have a spring planted guide that I created. It goes over 50 plus crop and it gives you guidance in terms of when to plant what based on where you live, as well as tips on how to set those plants up for success in your garden. So I will link that below as well. But until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And remember, every black thumb ripens to green, and it all just starts with a seed.